Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibes, and I'd like to welcome here Chad Cooper, who is a business and leadership coach, and we're going to get to know him, have a great conversation. Chad, tell us a little bit more about you.
A little bit more about me. You got it. Thanks, Kyle. Well, I would say, long story short, is raised in a very large family. 2 days after I graduated, went into the Marine Corps, did a stint there, then went into Microsoft, retired at 35 to be the primary in our home, kind of pioneering before it was popular. Wife was super talented in the corporate world. Me, that bureaucracy doesn't work so well for me. So I was like, you go do what you're awesome at. I'll go do what I'm awesome at. And now our son is third year at university. Throughout that 20 years, essentially, did a number of things, but stood up 3 foundations, of which I still participate in, and been a executive coach for 18 or 19 years now, working with billionaires, professional athletes, and Olympians. What's unique about that is that I get to see how high performers take certain ingredients that differentiate them from the ordinary, and then I can leverage those for entrepreneurs and everyday people like myself. So it's a little bit about me, and then where I'm going is to take all of that and expand it globally for volume, particularly to impact developing parts of the world where they can't afford these high ticket items, right? They can't afford even $3,000 items. So getting it down to a way that they're super hungry for, and in a method that they're willing and able to digest. That's about me. Great show.
I'm going to throw a little commentary in here. So I
Let's
went to school with the guy who went on to be a star at Texas A&M, and then he went in to play in the NFL. All right. And his name was Quentin Coriat. Anyway, he had a pretty good career. He ended up retiring with the Dallas Cowboys. And, I don't know if you remember him, he played for the Colts for quite a while.
Yeah.
But he took his money, he invested it here and there, and then even started his own business. I think he makes athletic equipment, what have you. But so many of those guys, they're in the NFL, NBA, what have you. They get all this money, and they live the high life, wearing the gold chains and driving the fancy cars, big houses, yada yada yada. And then before you know it, once they've left the NFL, they're broke. But
Yeah.
Quentin was smart. He put his money to work for him, and he's making it pretty good. Where the other guys are, they're I don't know, maybe they're trying to get a job as a commentator or something to feed themselves because they've blown all that money. Have you run across guys like that?
Well, that's yeah. I mean, it's a great question. It's really one of the areas that I specialize in particular with professional athletes, is on the tail end of their career, typically the last 1 or 2 contracts that they have left. So many of those are going to be career professionals, but I also help in those that are aspiring in the minors, looking to go pro. There's three patterns that I've noticed over time. And the first I picked up when I was 19 years old. I started saving, and even though I was still going through university, was still in the Marine Corps, is I just learned to start saving just a portion, even when you have expenses, because you're building that habit. And that's usually the first red flag of somebody's got abundant talent, and then they get thrown a crap load of money, but they didn't have the healthy habits in their finances or a healthy relationship. So, how did I retire from Microsoft? I saved more than I spent. Okay. Yeah, stock awards and the company did well. Of course that helps. And my wife and I both worked at the same time for the company. So the first is the discipline to save more than you spend. Okay. And that's regardless of what profession that you're in. The second is NFL actually stands for not for long.
Mm-hmm.
And how many of these guys, statistically, 18 months and you're injured out or cut. Okay. So you're not there for long. If you have the fortunate privilege to do it for a career, you're doing something very different, and it's more than just talent. I can't tell you about how many talented athletes that I've worked with and come across. Talent is what gets you the conversation or gets you the tryout. But there's a lot of other ingredients that allow you to stay there. And you can look at some of the greats, Gretzky, Brady, etc. Their behavior outside of the field or the rink or wherever their profession is what allows them to actually stay there. The talent is just competing against other talented people. So they have a mindset in that says, okay, I'm not here for long. Where am I going to invest that money? Because I don't know how long that faucet's going to be flowing the almighty dollar. And then the third is that they stay away from the look, my uncle or my cousin's got a guaranteed restaurant business idea, right? They throw it into like the worst possible investments because they believe in wanting to support and serve, but they haven't actually fortified their foundation. And so with that is, he put his money where it would return in investment. And so when we do that, it's about working with these guys to say, look, man, are you prepared to invest this over the long haul? And I particularly saw that with Olympians. Olympians get their gold medal and they're pretty much done in their 20s. It's like, you got 60 years ahead of you, God willing. What are you going to do? And people don't really think about their finances long term. The ones that are intelligent are the ones that are like, look, I need to make this grow. What's a product? What's something that's a commodity rather than a business or a restaurant where you become enslaved to it? So their approach is very different. And I'm sadly, it's far more common than your friend who was smart.
Well, if I was to come into some money, what I want to do is, of course, I want a nice home, but I don't need a huge mansion to live in. I don't need a big fancy car. I'm happy with my Toyota truck, to be honest with you.
Yep.
I don't need anything fancy. I want to be able to put money away, not only for my wife and I to enjoy our last years, but I want something to pass on to my children and my grandchildren.
Right.
And yeah, I know a lot of people like, oh man, if I hit the lotto, I'm gonna go buy this big house and a boat, and I'm gonna get 10 Corvettes and a Bentley and all this. Why? Why do you need all that?
Well,
It's
there's a couple of reasons that people need it. When I was retiring from Microsoft at 35 years old, my peers threw me a retirement party, and they'd come up to me and they're like, Chad, look, man, we pretty much are equal in terms of our jobs. So I'm pretty sure I know what you make, and we're about on the same par, maybe slightly, different in terms of that package. But dude, 35, how in the hell are you retiring? And I said, yeah, you remember that Ferrari and Lotus Esprit that you bought cash? Yeah. I said, you remember that 10,000 square foot house that you built? Yeah. I didn't. Right. And so I saved. And to your point in that, Kyle, is that I looked at by experiences, not things. But I'm not opposed to having nice things. The difference is the nice things that I have, the few of them, they're high quality, they're really nice. Like, maybe a really nice guitar for you, you'd invest in that because it complements you. And so the difference is not about that you have things to complete or compete. The things that I have that are material complement me. They don't define me. And I think that's the struggle that people, it's like, oh, I'm going to go all spiritual and I want nothing to do with the material. Okay, cool, great if that works for you, right? But I see kind of the perspective of, and it's just my belief system, at this point in time, is that we're spiritual beings living in a material world right now. We better learn how to play by both of the rules. So I have no problem in my relationship. God's like, look, I want you to be absurdly abundant in every aspect of your life, physically, monetarily, spiritually, relationally, on and on. So we look at that from like a health and relationship and go, oh yeah, I have no problem being abundant in thriving in that. But sometimes we get this like queasy, uneasy because of some indoctrinated beliefs about, money is the root of all evil. No, actually, there's nothing that says that whatsoever.
It's the love of money.
It's about putting it above God
Mhm.
is what it's saying. So I use it as a tool. And here's the reality is the more money that I receive, the larger checks I can actually contribute to my foundation and to the causes beyond me. And so there's a part in there about if you have an abundance mindset is to overproduce. And I learned this really kind of the agrarian growing up from a farmer, Midwest Michigan. It's a farm kind of atmosphere, right? Agriculture. And you'd have what's called a bumper crop. That's like a surplus in your harvest that you weren't expecting. If we have that mindset in our careers, in our health, and in our finances, we can say, look, I need to be responsible. Your buddy was responsible. I need to fill my cup, fill it to overflowing. You keep what's in the cup and then you give away what's ever in the saucer. I know we don't do saucers anymore, but you know the metaphor, right? So when we overproduce, we are assured that we're actually going to hit the mark. And they've done studies like, you got a person on a ledge and they have to jump across this cavern or this, gap to get to the other ledge. Well, people who aim for the edge of this ledge are going to miss. People who aim past the ledge are assured that they're going to land on solid footing. So that's about having a healthy relationship with our finances. I just downsized because I didn't need the big house. I didn't want a pool anymore. I didn't want the big yard. I want to be able to empty the fridge, turn a key, and walk away and be in Europe if I need to for my clients. And so those are things that complement my life. They don't compete and they don't complete me. So the things that I have, they're not about whether people approve. It's about whether they actually complement me.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's nothing wrong with having something nice, but a couple that their kids are living wherever and it's just you and your spouse, why do you need 12 bedrooms? Why not a just nice modest home and maybe have a guest room or something if somebody wants to come visit, or maybe when the kids need to move in for a little bit. I just don't see the point of having a mansion. I'm not that kind of person. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have no judgment towards the people that are those kind of people, right? It's like, look, the question is, are you satisfied? Are you happy? Is it about a doingness or a beingness? And so I look at it as, look, I could be in a mansion, I could be in a tent, and I get to choose who I'm going to be in the midst of whatever I'm doing or wherever I'm going to be, sitting. So I've had the privilege of being in some amazing luxury experiences, and I also can be quite as comfortable in a tent, which I did last week and loved it, right? I had to go up to Tennessee from Florida, could have flown for 300 bucks, but I decided to throw a tent and a sleeping bag in the back of the vehicle and did a Jack Kerouac and just kind of took off. And like I get there when I get there, I had plenty of time before the client needed to see me. And then coming back, took my time, stopped and spent it with my son. So what fulfills me is really realizing happiness is not an effect. It's an inside job. I choose to be happy, and I chose to stop and see my son on the way down and celebrate my birthday with him. It's like, that's where I want to spend my money. Somebody wants to do it on a mansion, cool. Do they feel complete by doing that? Do they feel complimented? Or are they doing it so that somebody will tell them that they're enough? I think it's about intent.
Most of the folks that watch my program, they're going to be your average Joe. So are they going to be able to come to you and get advice, or you just have a typical client that you work with?
It's a great question. And I would say the answer is resoundingly, absolutely yes. And here's why. Because there's only so many patterns in human behavior. And once you understand those patterns, I don't need to know what your career or industry or what your unique circumstances are. Those patterns allow me to be able to serve you. And my experience then of working with high performers, be that military or financial titans or sports professionals, there's certain ingredients that you can put together that allow an everyday normal person such as myself to actually understand how I can be a high performer. And the the goal in that is not to say, oh, I've got to make $1 billion. I don't know if you've seen the wheel of life before, Kyle, but it's like, you have all these slices in a wheel, and you have your personal and health and relationships and finances, et cetera. And it's always from 0 to 10. And people always think that a 10 is like the best number. I'm like, no, an 8 might be your standard of a 10, right? So look, if making 6 figures is like that's what you need to make, then it's based on your standards, not society's, because society's a really low bar. Our standards should be much higher. And so when we look at everyday people, those are the ones that, I go sit with a CEO and they could be a total jerk. I can sit with a janitor and they can be totally amazing. And you would be shocked at how many of those janitors are far more financially well off than the executive who is just leveraged to the hilt. So I think it was Warren Buffett that said, when the tide goes out, you see who's standing naked, right? Don't let appearances, fool you. So everyday people, that's my jam. Those are the people I love to go hang with because they typically have some good foundational values, and that foundation is what we can build upon. Then I can take the high performer ingredients and accelerate that so that they get to their outcomes based on their definition, not society's or anybody else.
Well, I had a curveball thrown to me. I was working as a supervisor in the water department, been working for the city for 20 some odd years. And anyway, I ended up developing a disease in my spine. I had to retire early. And fortunately for me, I was part of the Texas Municipal Retirement Service, and they pay you 2 for 1. So I had a nice nest egg. I'm taken care of for the rest of my life. I mean, I'm not a millionaire by any means, but not too bad.
Yeah.
And so things like that happen in life. Some people aren't as fortunate. They don't have a retirement system like the city does, which
Yeah.
follows you all over the state of Texas, by the way. So if I worked in Houston and then moved to Dallas, my retirement follows me. Um, I'm assuming you help both kinds of folks, the ones that have a nice nest egg and those that maybe are looking to make that nest egg.
So when I retired from Microsoft, I lasted in retirement for about 3 months, Kyle. And I lasted for 3 months because I went, this retirement thing just doesn't work for me. I'm not the guy that's going to sit on the couch drinking a beer and watching football, right? I wanted to be the super dad, active participant and model for my son. And so I found myself with some time. I found that, hey, I still want to contribute financially to my family. I want to continue to contribute to my own knowledge and just continual education. So I found myself getting all of my securities and exchange licenses, the SEC, and Northwestern Mutual, which is an amazing financial institution, hired me specifically in semi-retirement to see, can somebody in semi-retirement perform as well as a full-time person? I blew away people at 60 hours a week and I was doing 15. And so after a year, they sat me down. They said, all right, what are you doing that is causing these kind of results? I said, it's really simple. I said, you're training people to sell insurance, sell an annuity. They're going in with this product. I said, I sit down at the table and I don't care if you're a billionaire or you're just starting out in your first job. I serve. I said, when we serve, I said, look, you guys have the portfolio, the Cadillac of every product under the sun. All I do is sit down. I guarantee you, whether you're a billionaire or you're starting out, you got a gap somewhere. I just fill the gap because I know that we have the product. I serve. And when we serve, we win, you win. So, yeah, if somebody doesn't have a pension, somebody doesn't have $1 million, you got a gap. The goal is to find the gap that you want to fill in the right product or the right solution to be able to do that. But in doing that, it's based on what your answers are. The thing that's unique about professional life coaching, we don't make recommendations, Kyle. We ask powerful questions that bring the answers up within you so that you know what to fill that gap with. It's not based on my recommendation or society or anybody else, mom and dad or whatever. It's like, you know the answer. You just need the space to do that. So It doesn't matter what your walk of life is, your gender, your ethnicity, your religion, your economic means. We're completely agnostic to that.
Someone's watching this and they're curious and they need to get a hold of you. How do they do so?
Keep it really simple. You go to chadecooper.com. E is an echo, chadecooper.com. That's where you're going to find, a free book, buy books, how to contact me. Yeah, and I'm in a unique place right now where for the first time, I think 19 years, I'm actually saying, hey, I want to take on some more clients. So that's available on there as well. But I just say, look, shoot me an email. I don't make things complicated. It's not a transaction. Let's see if there's an opportunity for a relationship and how I can serve you.
How many books do you have?
Right now, I have one that was by publisher, and then two of these, little kind of like give you some quick knowledge to get you going kind of thing. And I'm working on the next published one. It's not so much the content is the budget and the effort for the marketing. I look at it as Top Gun Maverick was a great example. It sat on the shelf for 2 years during COVID because as great of a blockbuster that they knew they produced, they knew that if they didn't do the marketing well, it was never going to make $1 billion. So it's not so much about the book as like, okay, what's it going to take to effectively market it?
I'll let you plug your book real quick.
Thanks. I appreciate that. It's Time Isn't the Problem.
Okay.
Now, you might see it under Time Isn't the Problem, you are, but that became a little too in your face. It was like, can you not see that if you don't recognize you're part of the problem, you can't recognize you're part of the solution? So if you're mature enough to go, oh, I can be responsible for being the problem and the solution, maybe it's a great fit for you. But if you're like, no, that's insulting, it's probably a pass.
I'm going to put your links in the description to make it easier for folks to find you. Chad,
Appreciate it.
thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
A delight. Thank you.
And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button for my regulars. You guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network